They were both trending that morning, but for two different reasons. Kevin was trending because he had just been announced as the winner of the 300 million naira grand prize and a brand new SUV after 13 weeks on Africa's most watched reality TV show, The House. Sandra, on the other hand, was trending because a leaked sex tape of her and one of the show's producers had just hit the internet. A blurry, grainy, but unmistakable video. Her fans were in chaos. Her haters were rejoicing. Her brand endorsement deals? Silence. One by one, they would vanish like mist. Just hours earlier, the nation had celebrated her. The beautiful, bold, and manipulative Queen Sandra, the most talked-about female contestant in the show's history. She was loved and hated in equal measure. But she was also smart. Very smart. That was how she made it into the house in the first place, by doing what she had to do. But now, even as her name was on every lip, even as the producers denied involvement in the leak, Sandra stared blankly at her phone. There was a message from Kevin. "Sandra, we need to talk. Alone." And that's where the real story begins. Sandra grew up in Surulere, Lagos. Her father was a civil servant. Her mother sold fabric at Tijuosho Market. They weren't rich, but Sandra lived like she came from wealth. She always wanted more: fame, beauty, power, recognition. She hated the quiet life. It was too boring for her spirit. From secondary school, people had called her a slay queen, and she wore the title like a crown. The nails, the lashes, the Brazilian hair, the makeup, she was always ready. But beneath all the gloss was a young woman with a desperate hunger to be seen and admired. When she heard about The House, a reality show that promised fame, 300 million naira, an SUV, and instant stardom, she knew it was her only chance. But the slots were limited, and the competition was fierce. So Sandra used the only tools she had: her body, her charm, and her cunning. She seduced not one, but 3 producers. And soon, she was in. From day one in the house, Sandra began playing the game like chess. Seduction, manipulation, mind games. She lured the weak and played the strong. But no one saw Kevin coming, and neither did she. Kevin didn't look like a threat. He was funny, calm, and had this natural charm that made people like him instantly. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't loud. But he was real. And in a house full of clout chasers and fake personas, his authenticity stood out like light in darkness. Sandra tried to study him from the first week. He didn't flirt with the other girls. He didn't gossip. He didn't play dirty. Yet somehow, every week, the fans kept saving him. And the housemates kept trusting him. She hated that. So, she tried to draw him in. At first, Sandra flirted. She touched his arm when she talked to him, sat close to him during mealtimes, wore her tightest shorts when he was around. But Kevin didn't fall. He smiled. He listened. But he never gave her what she wanted: submission. And for the first time in her life, Sandra felt something strange: interest. Not fake interest. Real curiosity. Who was this guy who couldn't be played? She made it her mission to bring him down. But instead, the more she tried to manipulate him, the more she fell under his spell. The third week came with the cooking task. Each team had to prepare a 3-course traditional meal representing a different African culture. Sandra was placed on Kevin's team, an arrangement she suspected was intentional from the producers. Maybe they saw the tension. Maybe they wanted drama. But instead, something unexpected happened. They worked well together. Kevin was focused in the kitchen, skillfully chopping vegetables, humming old-school songs as he stirred the egusi soup. Sandra couldn't help but watch him. Not for the game, not to seduce him, but out of genuine admiration. By the time they finished plating the meal, their team had created magic. The judges loved it. They won that week's task. Later that night, as the housemates danced to victory in the common room, Sandra sat alone in the garden. Kevin joined her. "You're different when you're not trying to play a role," he said. She looked at him. "So are you." They laughed. That was the first real conversation they had. No strategy. No fake smiles. Just two people seeing each other for the first time. And it terrified Sandra more than anything else in the game. The game didn't pause for feelings. By the 5th week, 2 housemates were already evicted. Drama had erupted, alliances were forming, secrets were being whispered. But Kevin and Sandra were slowly becoming a fan-favorite pair. People called them Candra on social media. Memes, edits, fan pages. Sandra's following doubled in 3 weeks. Kevin's humor and authenticity gained him endorsements from outside. The chemistry between them was undeniable, but nothing physical had happened, yet. Sandra, though still playing the game, found herself confused. She couldn't tell where the game ended and her feelings began. And that scared her. She tried to kiss Kevin once during a truth or dare night. He gently refused. "If I kiss you now, it won't be part of the game anymore." That night, Sandra cried in her bed. Not because of rejection, but because, for once, someone saw her beyond the lashes, beyond the wigs, beyond the Slay Queen image. Kevin saw her. She began withdrawing from the other housemates. Her manipulations slowed down. The seductions stopped. People noticed. And it made her enemies start plotting against her. In the game of survival, love was a weakness. And Sandra had just found hers. Week 6 came with a twist. The producers introduced a double task. One mental, one physical. The housemates were split into 2 rival teams, Team Blaze and Team Ice. Kevin led Blaze. Sandra was made team lead for Ice. This time, there was no room for flirting or laughter. It was war. Tension rose between them. They avoided each other in the house. Fans on social media started to worry. Was Candra falling apart? Behind the scenes, Sandra was losing focus. She wanted to win the 300 million Nigerian nairas, but her heart was divided. Kevin, however, remained focused. His team won both tasks. Sandra's leadership was questioned. Her team lost confidence in her. At the eviction show that weekend, one of Sandra's closest allies in the house, Naomi, was evicted. And just before leaving, she whispered to Sandra, "You're losing. Not because you're weak, but because you're in love." Those words stung. That night, Sandra stared at the camera in the diary room and said, "I didn't come here to fall in love. I came here to win. And I will win, even if it means breaking my own heart." But in the house, feelings are like shadows. The harder you run, the closer they follow. In week 7, Sandra switched gears. The Slay Queen returned. She started mingling again. Flirted with a new male contestant, Pablo, a gym enthusiast and Instagram influencer. Fans online didn't like it. Some called her fake. Others called her desperate. But Sandra didn't care. She needed to win. Kevin watched from a distance. He didn't say much, but his smile faded more each day. Sandra kissed Pablo during a pool party that Friday night. It trended instantly. #Sandra the player dominated Twitter. Kevin barely reacted, but his silence spoke volumes. The next day, during the Saturday task, Sandra stumbled while presenting her team's pitch. Her mind wasn't on the task. Her heart was somewhere else. Kevin's team won, again. In the privacy of the garden that evening, Sandra confronted him. "Say something. Anything." Kevin shrugged. "What do you want me to say, Sandra? That I like you? That I'm hurt? That you broke my heart on live TV?" She stepped closer. "So it was real for you too?" He didn't reply. Sandra walked away in silence, unaware that millions watching at home were already crying or smiling. The love story wasn't over, but neither was the game. Week 8 was the most dramatic yet. A task came that pushed housemates to their emotional limits. Each person had to write a letter to someone they had hurt, or been hurt by, in life, and read it aloud to the house. When it was Sandra's turn, she shocked everyone. She read a letter addressed to herself. "I've lied to you. I've used your beauty as a weapon. I've made you do things for attention. I've traded your body for opportunities. And now, you're lost. But I forgive you." By the time she finished, there was silence. Even Kevin wiped a tear. Social media exploded. #Sandra is human trended for 2 days straight. After the task, Kevin approached her. For the first time in weeks, they hugged. No words, just warmth. That night, they shared a bed, not for sex, but for comfort. Two souls finally at peace. Pablo tried to stir trouble, but no one cared. The audience had chosen a new narrative, redemption. Sandra was slowly becoming the heroine. And Kevin? Her knight in denim jeans. But the story wasn't done writing itself. In reality shows, nothing stays perfect for long. Week 9 brought betrayal. Sandra overheard a conversation between Pablo and another male housemate. They were plotting to use her name in a scandal to get her disqualified. Apparently, Pablo had recorded their kiss and planned to leak it with a twisted story of coercion. Furious, Sandra confronted him in front of the entire house. It was explosive. She exposed the plan, shouted, cried, cussed. Pablo tried to lie, but Kevin backed her. So did others. By the end of the night, Pablo was issued a warning and became the house villain. Fans turned against him. Sandra's fanbase grew even stronger. She became a symbol of survival. Later that night, Sandra sat outside with Kevin. "I almost forgot who I was," she said quietly. Kevin looked at her. "You're a woman who's made mistakes." "Yes, but also a woman who's growing." They held hands. The producers noticed the shift. The fans noticed. Brands started calling their managers. Outside the house, billboards already carried their faces. Inside, the game was entering its final stage. But fame is a candlelight in a storm. And storms don't always give warnings. Week 10. Final 5. Only 5 contestants remained. The show was nearing its end. The tasks were harder. The tension was thicker. The love between Kevin and Sandra? Stronger than ever. They kissed on live TV. It wasn't forced. It wasn't part of a dare. It was real. Fans lost their minds. #Kandra for Life trended across Nigeria and Ghana. Even celebrities began posting their support. That week, they were made to write scripts and act out short dramas. Sandra, with Kevin as her partner, shined like a diamond. For the first time, people saw her not as a slay queen, but as an actress. A star. They won that task. Again. And as the eviction approached, Sandra became nervous. "What if you win and I don't?" she asked Kevin. He smiled. "Then I'll take you on a trip with the money." "But what if I win?" she teased. "Then I'll still carry your bag to the airport," he replied. They laughed. But deep inside Sandra's heart, fear lingered. She wasn't afraid of losing the game anymore. She was afraid of losing him. After the game was over, she didn't know that her biggest nightmare hadn't even begun. Final 4. The house was quieter now. Less drama. More tension. Every smile was calculated. Every step watched. The producers brought in ex-housemates for a 2-day surprise visit. Among them was Junior, a quiet guy who had been evicted in week 3. Sandra froze when she saw him. Junior wasn't just an ex-housemate. He was someone she'd had a secret moment with under the radar during a drunken night in week 2. A kiss in the shadows. Nothing more, or so she thought. Now he was back. And he didn't smile at her. During a casual truth or dare game with the returning housemates, Junior said something cryptic. "Some people in this house act holy, but they forget what they did in the dark." Everyone laughed. But Sandra knew who the message was for. Later that night, she pulled Junior aside. "Don't start something you can't finish." Junior shrugged. "You already did." Sandra couldn't sleep that night. She lay beside Kevin, staring at the ceiling, haunted by one thought. What if I'm pregnant? The thought came suddenly. Her period was late. She'd blamed it on stress. But now, a cold wave passed through her. This wasn't part of the plan. Kevin noticed something was off. Sandra smiled less. She avoided eye contact. She no longer initiated kisses. During tasks, she spaced out. Kevin tried to talk to her, but she brushed it off. "I'm just tired," she said. But Kevin wasn't fooled. He had fallen in love with her eyes, and now they looked scared. Meanwhile, the internet was on fire. The final week was approaching. Voting was intense. The public was split, Kevin or Sandra, lovers or rivals. Then, 2 days before the finale, Sandra fainted during a yoga session. She woke up in the medical room. Just exhaustion, the nurse said. But Sandra asked for a private test. That night, she got the results. Positive. She stared at the paper like it was a death sentence. Her hands trembled. Her chest felt tight. How would she tell Kevin? The man who truly loved her. The man she loved deeply. The man who wasn't the father. Sandra curled up under the covers that night and wept quietly. For her dreams. For her fear. For the truth she could no longer hide. The final day came with fanfare. Cameras rolled. Fireworks lit up the sky. The hosts hyped the moment with excitement. Sandra wore a golden gown. Kevin stood beside her in a sleek native outfit. They looked like a royal couple. Then, the drum roll. The winner was announced. Kevin. The crowd erupted. Sandra clapped and smiled. But her heart pounded. This moment should have been perfect. The man she loved had won. The love story was complete. But she was drowning in secrets. Kevin hugged her tightly, whispered, "We made it," and kissed her on live TV. Fans screamed. The whole country rejoiced. Endorsements rolled in that same night. A movie director offered Sandra her first role. Kevin was called the man of the moment. They left the house as Africa's sweethearts. But Sandra carried more than fame. She carried a secret that could destroy everything. And she wasn't the only one who knew. Junior had sent her a message after the finale. "Congrats, Mama. Hope Kevin likes surprises." The past had followed her outside the house. And now, it had teeth. Fame was intoxicating. Kevin and Sandra became media darlings. Interviews, talk shows, brand deals. They were booked, busy, and beloved. Even people who hated Sandra before had softened. She looked genuinely happy beside Kevin. And maybe she was, for a while. But secrets rot in silence. One morning, Sandra stared at herself in the mirror. Her stomach was still flat, but she could feel the changes. Morning nausea, mood swings. She knew she couldn't hide it much longer. She decided to tell Kevin. But just before she could, a bigger storm hit. One of the producers of the house, someone Sandra had seduced to get into the show, leaked a sex video. Blurry, dark, but her voice was unmistakable. The internet went mad. #SandraLeaked trended instantly. Brands pulled out. Endorsements dropped. Blogs dragged her. Fans split. Some defended her. Others cussed her. Kevin was devastated. Not because of the video, but because she hadn't told him. "Was it true?" he asked. Sandra nodded, tears pouring down her face. "I did it. To get in. I was desperate." Kevin walked away. That night, Sandra sat alone in her hotel room, phone buzzing with hate. Then she whispered, "I'm pregnant." The following week was a blur. Kevin moved out of their shared apartment. His PR team issued a statement distancing him from the scandal. Sandra was officially cancelled by several brands. Online hate increased daily. She turned off her phone. But inside her, a life was growing. She booked a private appointment for a scan. As she stared at the blurry image of the baby on the screen, her emotions exploded. Fear, anger, guilt, hope, all clashing in her chest. Then came the final blow. The doctor asked, "Do you know how far along you are?" Sandra nodded. "Almost 3 months." And just like that, the truth was clear. The baby wasn't Kevin's. And it wasn't the producer's either. It was Junior's. The kiss in the shadows hadn't ended with a kiss. Sandra sank into the hospital chair. What started as a game had turned into a nightmare. But even now, a part of her believed she could fix it all. She just didn't know how. Sandra didn't sleep that night. She sat by her window, hugging a pillow, staring into the Lagos sky. Her life had spun out of control. faster than she could grab the pieces. She tried calling Kevin. He didn't pick. She tried messaging Junior. No response. Alone, she scrolled through her tagged photos. The hate comments were brutal. "This is what you get for sleeping your way to fame. Kevin deserves better. Your career is over, Slay Queen." She almost deleted her account, but stopped. Somewhere deep inside, Sandra still had a flicker of fight left. Later that week, her movie role was withdrawn due to reputational risks. More deals dropped her. Kevin was silent. Junior still ghosted her. She stared at her baby bump in the mirror. "I don't know how to be a mother," she whispered. And for the first time in years, she fell to her knees and prayed, not for fame, not for followers, but for strength. To survive the storm, to face the fire, to tell the truth. Kevin finally called. His voice was cold. Not angry, just tired. "I needed time," he said. Sandra didn't beg. She simply told him the truth. "It's not your baby, Kev. It's Junior's. From week 2. I didn't even know until after the show." Silence. Then Kevin spoke. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want to lose you." "You already did." That was the last thing he said before hanging up. Sandra didn't cry this time. Instead, she opened her laptop and wrote a full confession letter. She posted it across all platforms. She told the whole story, how she got into the show, the decisions she made, the pregnancy, and how fame changed her. Within hours, the internet exploded again. But something different happened this time. People began sympathizing. Not everyone, but many. "She's broken, but honest. Let her heal. Everyone deserves a second chance." Kevin saw it too, but he still kept his distance. The story wasn't over. Not yet. Junior finally replied. He sent a voice note. "I saw the post. So, it's mine? Wow. You sure?" Sandra sent him the scan, and he asked to meet in person. They met at a quiet cafe, away from the cameras. Junior was stunned when he saw her. "You're really pregnant," he mumbled, staring at her belly. Sandra didn't sugarcoat it. "I don't need your pity. I just thought you should know." Junior scratched his head. "I was a coward. I ran away 'cause I didn't know what I wanted." "I didn't either," she said. He sighed. "Well, if I'm going to be a father, I'll try to show up." It wasn't love. It wasn't peace. But it was a start. Later that week, Sandra was invited to a women's podcast to share her story. She accepted. That interview went viral. People cried. People related. And slowly, she started regaining her voice. She wasn't Slay Queen Sandra anymore. She was Sandra, the survivor. Kevin watched the interview. He didn't cry, but he felt something shift inside him. Sandra had changed. She wasn't the manipulative girl he met in the house. She was raw, broken, brave. He decided to reach out. They met at a small park. No cameras, no fans. "I watched everything," he said. "The podcast, the post, Junior." She waited for him to finish. "I hated you for not telling me the truth," he added. "But I never stopped loving you." Tears filled her eyes. "I never stopped loving you either." They sat in silence for a while. Then Kevin asked, "What happens next?" Sandra placed his hand gently on her belly. "Whatever happens, I want peace. For me, for the baby, even if it means walking alone." Kevin smiled faintly. "You won't walk alone. Not if I can help it." They didn't kiss. They didn't promise forever. But they held hands. Sometimes healing begins with something that simple. 1 year later, Sandra stood on the red carpet of the AMVCA Awards, glowing in a black satin gown, her hair braided neatly, her skin radiant. Her baby boy, Jason, was 6 months old, healthy and happy. Junior, though not present, had stayed in his life. Kevin arrived moments later, suited, calm, elegant. They weren't together romantically anymore, but they were friends. Real friends. The world had forgiven Sandra, or at least, accepted her. She had starred in 2 blockbuster films, one based loosely on her life. From scandal to stardom, from Slay Queen to Survivor, from shame to strength. As photographers screamed her name, Sandra smiled, holding her baby in one hand and her award in the other. And just like that, she became more than a trending topic. She became a story, a lesson, a legend.